When we think about a newborn baby, we think about how angelically sweet, pure and innocent they are, and how unsullied they are by the world in which they've just emerged. And so it seems incongruous to connect childbirth with tumah, with impurity. And yet that's exactly what we see at the opening verses of Tazria. It tells us if a woman conceives and gives birth, she is impure for 7 days if it's a male. Now the beginning of new life is synonymous with innocence and purity. So why does the Torah attach a status of impurity to such a moment? For a brilliant exposition on spiritual purity in general and the concept of impurity in this particular context, we turn to Rav Hirsch. See, for Rav Hirsch, the key to understanding these principles is the knowledge that the first prerequisite for all moral development is the free-willed elevation of oneself beyond the bounds of impurity. In other words, we have to be conscious that we're so much more than just physical beings, destined as much to die as we were to be born. We are in fact imbued with an neshama, a soul that craves to transcend the limits of this world and approach the divine. And inherent to it is the capacity that it gives us to make free choices about our behavior. And it's only when we lose sight of this truth and focus on our corporeal existence and on the earthly preoccupations do we become shackled by the confines of our environment and mired in the spiritual myopia that is termed as tumah, impurity. The act of childbirth, which is by very nature so obviously a physiological process, is a perfect example of this tendency of the human psyche, because it can cause someone to focus on the physical aspects of life, its cyclical nature, and it forces us to contemplate our own mortality, thereby rendering us temporary tameh, impure, detached as we become from the more transcendental nature and side of our makeup. And with this in mind, we can actually understand a related teaching in Pirkei Avos that states, against your will you are formed, against your will you are born, against your will you live, and against your will you die. And against your will you are destined to give a judgment and accounting before the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. Now clearly from what we've said, this must be an exhaustive list. Its purpose is to inform us that these and only these things are beyond our control, whereas everything else, especially the choices we make in life, are within our sphere of influence, and most importantly, we're free to choose what we do. Says Rav Hirsch, this is the definition of tahara, of purity, and its opposite occurs when we defocus from that truth. So we can now render this concept as the clarity we have when we are aware of the dual aspect of our existence, that we're inescapably the amalgam of both physical and spiritual, which is the vehicle for sublime purity.